Studying Hunter, Handkun.
Hello, this is Handkun.
And Kotaro.
There are various answers to the question of how humanity was born on this earth, but there is still no clear and definitive answer.
If you heard that the secret of humanity's origin is hidden on the moon, you'd probably feel bewildered. These two seemingly unrelated entities are, in fact, connected by various invisible threads.
This time, based on the myths and stories from around the world, as well as the result of modern scientific research, I would like to talk about the secrets of the moon and the origins of humanity, including some personal conjectures.
The moon, an anomalous entity. From Earth, the moon and the sun appear to be the same size. This is also why total solar eclipses occur. This size, though familiar and seemingly normal to us, is quite rare in our solar system. The sun's diameter is about 1.39 million kilometers, while the moon's diameter is approximately 3,400 kilometers, making it about 1/395th the size of the sun. Furthermore, the sun is about 150 million kilometers from Earth, whereas the moon is about 384,000 kilometers away from Earth, which is also roughly 1/395th the distance. This ratio is why the sun and moon appear to be the same size when viewed from Earth. No other planet in our solar system exhibits this phenomenon. Moreover, considering the size of Earth, the moon is unusually large for a natural satellite. These facts have led astronomers to often say that the moon's current position is nothing short of an accident. This is explained in astronomy through the concept of the Roche limit. Simply put, the Roche limit is a measure of a celestial body's safety zone. If a smaller body, like a satellite, is within a planet's Roche limit, it can be destroyed by the planet's tidal forces. Saturn's rings, for instance, are thought to have formed from the debris of a satellite that entered inside Saturn's Roche limit and was torn apart by tidal forces. In contrast to the Roche limit, there's also a concept known as the Hill sphere, which indicates the extent of a celestial body's gravitational influence. When a smaller body exits the Hill sphere of a planet, it escapes the gravitational influence of that planet. Within this broad range, it can remain a satellite of Earth. However, the moon's position seems too coincidental. From Earth's surface, it is positioned 384,000 kilometers away, appearing the same size as the sun. The moon is currently drifting away from Earth at a rate of about 3.8 centimeters per year, meaning that in the distant future, the moon and the sun will no longer appear the same size. Conversely, in Earth's distant past, the moon must have appeared larger than the sun. Upon further investigation into this matter, a peculiar fact emerges. Records and stories about the moon in various countries do not appear until after tales of a great flood, supposedly caused by gods. For instance, the ancient Chinese text, Classic of Mountains and Seas from the 4th century BC, contains records of a cataclysmic flood. However, all stories and characters related to the moon emerge after this great flood. The Maya civilization, known for their advanced astronomical knowledge, depicted astronomical charts on walls. These charts include the Sun, Venus, Mars, and others. But curiously, there's no depiction of the moon, which should be the closest to Earth. Similarly, in Native American lore, there was only the sun in the ancient sky, and no moon. Greek ancient stories also narrate similar tales. Thus, in many nations and cultures, stories about the moon only appear after the tales of a great flood. The reasons behind this will be discussed in detail later, but first, let's examine the narratives surrounding the Great Flood. The Great Flood that destroyed heaven and earth. This Great Flood, often relegated to the realm of myth and legend, is curiously documented in the ancient texts of many countries around the world. Notable examples include the Bible, Sumerian civilization, ancient Greek civilization, ancient Egypt, ancient China, and ancient India. almost all major ancient civilizations have recorded stories of a great flood. Consider this: in an era devoid of modern communication and transportation, how did continents separated by vast distances come to share such similar stories? The only plausible explanation is that this catastrophic flood, which destroyed heaven and earth, was not merely a legend, but a historical reality. With this context in mind, let's delve deeper into the mystery of the moon. The following is my conjecture. Long ago, an alien race with advanced scientific and technological capabilities came to Earth in a spaceship for some purpose. After reaching Earth, they positioned their spaceship close to the planet, possibly with parts of it entering Earth's atmosphere. The spaceship was equipped with anti-gravity devices, allowing it to remain close without colliding with Earth. Additionally, a space elevator-like communication passage was established between the surface and the spaceship. At that time, there were no life forms on Earth, but various atomic life forms were created by these aliens. They then oversaw the evolution of these primitive life forms, aiming to bring about the birth of an intelligent life form best suited to Earth's environment. During this process, they successfully built civilizations multiple times, with intelligent life thriving on the surface. However, in their quest for a perfect creation, they restarted the process repeatedly. In order to make way for new creations, they had to erase their previous failed attempts from the Earth's surface. The method they used to erase their failed creations was by causing a global-scale flood. This was achieved by deactivating the anti-gravity device on their spaceship. The moment the anti-gravity device was shut off, the spaceship moved outside of Earth's Roche limit to avoid collision. However, the sudden appearance of this massive gravitational force triggered tsunamis of unimaginable magnitude on Earth. As a result, all land on the surface was completely submerged, and even flying creatures eventually succumbed to exhaustion and fell into the sea. Once all failed creations were eradicated and the Great Flood subsided, they returned the spaceship to near Earth's surface and began creating the next generation of life forms. It is unclear how many times this process was repeated, but according to Maya mythology, there were 4 civilizations before the appearance of current humanity. If the tale in the Maya mythology holds any truth, then we, as the 5th emergence, are their latest creation.
We humans came to call them gods and recorded their existence in various forms. Their spaceship was named Garden of Eden or Paradise in Western cultures and Tenkyu or Tenbu in Eastern cultures. The space elevator connecting their spaceship to Earth was also recorded in various ways.
A space elevator? That must be incredibly huge, right?
Exactly. This is represented in the Tower of Babel from the Old Testament, which was said to reach the heavens. The secret pathway to Mount Buzu in ancient Chinese text, Mount Sinai in Jewish tradition, and Mount Olympus in Greek mythology.
I see. So the stories do match up.
Furthermore, the Great Flood they caused is recorded in stories like Noah's Ark. Of course, they themselves have been recorded in various forms as well.
The Anunnaki. The ancient texts of the Sumerian civilization, considered to be one of the oldest known civilizations, mention the existence of gods known as the Anunnaki. In the Sumerian language, Anunnaki means those who came down from heaven to earth. This term does not refer to a single deity, but rather a group of gods. Based on various descriptions and illustrations in these ancient texts, it is speculated that the Anunnaki were giants with lifespans exceeding 250,000 years. This extraordinary longevity aligns with the information found in another ancient Sumerian document, the Sumerian King List. The Sumerian King List divides the history of the Sumerian civilization into 2 periods, pre-flood and post-flood. In the pre-flood era, there were 8 kings whose combined reigns totaled approximately 250,000 years. averaging around 30,000 years per king. After the Great Flood, the reigns of subsequent kings were significantly shorter. The first 23 post-flood kings had reigns ranging from 300 to 1,200 years each. If we only consider this information, one might conclude that the Sumerian king list is merely a myth. However, the reigns of kings listed after these 23 significantly shorten to just a few decades each, and their names and reign periods highly correspond with those in recognized historical documents. Considering these facts, the Sumerian king list appears not just as a myth, but as a reflection of actual history. This suggests that the Sumerian civilization likely had contact with these beings, and that the Anunnaki and Sumerian kings mentioned in Sumerian classics and myths are likely depictions of these beings. Let's delve deeper into the Anunnaki, as depicted in Sumerian mythology. Among the Anunnaki, there are various figures, each with their own mythological episodes. Here, I'd like to introduce Enki and Ninhursag, who were most closely involved with humanity. Enki means Lord of the Earth. He is portrayed in Sumerian mythology as the god of life and water, and is one of the key deities who bestowed civilization upon humanity. He is depicted with a human upper body and a serpent lower body. Ninhursag, Enki's sister and also his wife, is the goddess of fertility and abundance. She, too, is represented with a human upper body and a serpent lower body. Together, they collaborated to nurture human civilization. In addition to the highest-ranking gods, the Anunnaki, there were also subordinate gods known as the Igigi, who were ruled by the Anunnaki. In Sumerian, Igigi means the Watchers. At one point, the Igigi attempted to rebel and break free from the Anunnaki's rule, but they were ultimately annihilated by the Anunnaki. After this, there are tales that Enki began the creation of intelligent life forms as replacements for the Igigi. Following this narrative, it's possible that the Igigi were a previous civilization of humanity that the Anunnaki deemed a failed creation. This is where we'll pause the discussion of Sumerian mythology. However, if the creators of Earth's civilization were indeed the Anunnaki of Sumerian myth, then similar beings should appear in the ancient texts of other cultures as well. Indeed, entities that seem to be identical to the Anunnaki appear in other mythologies as well. As mentioned earlier, Enki and Ninhursag from the Anunnaki, who nurtured human civilization, were both a couple and siblings. They are depicted with human upper bodies and serpent lower bodies. Similarly, in ancient Chinese mythology, Fuqi and Nuwa are also portrayed as both a couple and siblings, with their upper bodies human and lower bodies serpentine. Fuqi and Nuwa collaborated to bestow wisdom and civilization upon humans. Moreover, in Indian and ancient Egyptian mythologies, there are gods who are both spouses and siblings, with half of their bodies being serpentine. In Japanese mythology, there are Izanagi and Izanami, who are also a married couple and siblings. While there are no specific descriptions of their physical forms, the land, mountains, and seas in Japan are said to have been created by these two deities. These striking similarities across various cultures suggest a common archetype or shared mythological idea, possibly hinting at a widespread ancient belief in divine beings with specific characteristics, akin to the Anunnaki.
Ancient Japan, according to the Kojiki, the lifespans of ancient emperors were longer than those today, with many living over 100 years.
True. In the Bible, there are characters who lived for hundreds of years. There are similar stories in other countries' classics where ancient kings lived for centuries.
These accounts also coincide with what's recorded in the Sumerian king list. It suggests that the Anunnaki, who created humanity according to Sumerian mythology, have been transmitted and worshipped in different forms across various cultures worldwide.
So there's a commonality between the Sumerian myths and the Bible?
Exactly. To revisit the Igigi, those who try to escape the Anunnaki's rule can be considered synonymous with the Watchers or the fallen angels who rebelled against God in the Old Testament.
That's quite astonishing.
From all this, we can hypothesize that the source of all these mythologies might be those beings who had contact with the Sumerians.
The birth of humanity. Just like the myths of the Anunnaki, similar narratives about the creation of humanity can be found in mythologies across the world. In the Bible, God created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day, He made a human body from clay and breathed life into its nostrils, giving it consciousness. This describes the birth of Adam, humanity's first ancestor. In ancient Chinese mythology, as previously discussed, Nuwa, who had a human upper body and a serpent lower body, created human bodies from clay and breathed life into them, giving birth to humans. In Greek mythology, the god Prometheus created a figure similar to his own from clay. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, was so amazed by its beauty that she breathed life into it, giving it consciousness. Thus, like the stories of the Great Flood, myths about the creation of humanity share common themes across distant continents in ancient times. These myths can be seen as ancient humanity's attempt to describe their own creation in simple terms. While clay and breath were the terms used back then, in modern language, this might be interpreted as genetic engineering. Clay likely refers to the animals present at that time, which did not possess advanced intelligence. The breath could symbolize the DNA of the Anunnaki species. It is conceivable that they used sophisticated genetic manipulation to incorporate their DNA into that of these animals, creating a new intelligent species on Earth. The reason for mixing with animals could be to avoid creating a species with a level of intelligence that could become uncontrollable. The significance of the failed creations might be that they developed abilities close to the Anunnaki, potentially leading to rebellion. The common element between us, modern civilization's creation, and the products of the previous 4 civilizations, is believed to be the breath aspect, meaning that both we and the beings from the previous 4 civilizations share some DNA with the Anunnaki. However, the clay component likely varies across the 5 civilizations. For us, humanity, this clay is probably primate animals. In previous civilizations, species with reptilian traits, like dinosaurs, might have been used as the clay. This theory is supported by the fact that dinosaurs were the dominant life forms on Earth before the emergence of humans. Additionally, as some astute observers might have already noticed, urban legends often speak of humanoid reptilians, seamlessly integrating into human society. These urban legends about reptilians could suggest that species from previous civilizations might still survive on present-day Earth. If such tales hold any truth, they could be indicating the continued existence of these ancient, genetically modified beings, remnants of a past civilization, coexisting secretly within our current world.
You mentioned earlier that the purpose of the Great Flood was to erase the previous creation, right? The fact that urban legends about reptilians still exist might mean that the previous creation wasn't completely wiped out by the flood.
Their spaceship, now known as the Moon, remains in perfect orbit around the Earth. The anti-gravity device within it might still exist. As often said in urban legends, highly spiritual beings teach us to awake and become aware. And the message they consistently emphasize is always about love and harmony. I always thought these words were taught because they sound nice and promote peace.
If there's love and harmony, there's peace. It's something we should strive for.
But if we think about it more ominously, maybe beings with love and harmony are just easier to manage from an overseer's perspective. It's troublesome to manage a creation that fights and self-destructs. Powerful and dominant beings are also inconvenient, and the failed creations that don't listen are eliminated, as has happened in the past.
If the Watchers are still on the moon and they see us fighting and hurting each other, do you think they might consider us a failed creation and eliminate us again?
Possibly, they might use that lesson to develop a new life form, or maybe, from their perspective as gods, they might save the part of humanity they consider a good creation. Are they or something they left behind still on the moon? Are we their perfect creation? And why did they even create civilization on Earth?
What do you think about these questions? Feel free to share your thoughts as your own science fiction story in the comments section.
Until next time,
Bye bye.